Groundings. I'm your host, Ian Abrams, and my guest this evening is Brother Tacuma Ogunseye. And as usual, we'll be talking about the current political situation here in Guyana. Welcome to the program, Brother.
As usual, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, we have a number of issues to talk about. We can begin by looking at the Washington Conference. I was on a program the other day on the Globe Span program with Ravi Dev and Dr. Beteram Ramrat. And, the views shared was that, the views were not very much in favor of the conference. And then we have the Prime Minister coming out with a statement. I think Dr. Amarak was saying that he found it strange that the PNC, APNU, accused the Americans of interfering in Guyana's political affairs in terms of the 2020 elections, and now they're running to the same U.S. government to intervene. And he said it's ironical. I don't know what is ironical about that. But he did went on to say that and trace the history of American involvement in Guyana. So, I mean, I couldn't understand him recalling that history and then finding it strange that at this juncture, the opposition is seeking the Americans' influence on the politics of Guyana. How would you reconcile that contradiction?
Well, to be honest, I don't expect those elements to be sympathetic to an initiative like the conference, because they are PPP elements, and their position is to spin the situation the way in which the government is trying to spin it, to play down and to present the conference as being anti-national and unpatriotic and so forth. So I don't expect them to do anything better than what they have done. There is different levels of interventions, or there's different levels of involvement. The U.S. have always been involved in Guyana, just like how the British have always been involved for time. So there's always a U.S. presence in every, even if you want to restrict it to the 60s, the independence struggle. The U.S. have shaped, the politics of Guyana from then, so they're always playing a role. In 2020 elections, they play a role that was so overt that it had to be offensive to any, serious Guyanese who pays some value to our independence and our sovereignty. The U.S. intervention happened on the elections even before there's a declaration of the elections. Now, normal diplomacy, the U.S. has a policy that speaks to free and fair elections. They have tied the aid and so, both at the level of the Congress and at the government, to free and fair elections and these so-called democratic values. Therefore, one would expect that a U.S. government will want to see certain things plowed in Guyana and wherever they have an interest in a certain way. But the protocol has always been, once it's not open intervention, you have to have some respect for the internal processes of the particular country. And in terms of elections, you have to wait for a declaration. And having heard the declaration, the U.S. could come down whichever side they want to come down. But even before a declaration, the U.S. government have begun to sanction one side, in the election contest. So that is a different level of intervention. And those elements understand the difference, but it suits their purpose to present it in a certain way. But more importantly, from our point of view, when Dr. David Hines spoke, he made it extremely clear that they're not there to ask the Americans to meddle into the politics of Guyana. They're not there to come in to ask the Americans to engage in regime change. He made it extremely clear. But they're there to engage the Americans as representatives, okay, of the American people, and as policy makers in Congress, okay, they're there as Guyanese citizens to convey the concerns Guyanese citizens or sections of the Guyanese citizens has as it relates to the government governance system and how it affects, the African community and other ethnic groups and generally opposition supporters. And that is legitimate politics. So that is the way I respond to it. They're just being opportunistic, and they're not attempting to be objective. They're just finding ways to spin the PPP things. And that is why he contradicts himself when he spoke to the history of American involvement. But there are difference in interventions and involvements.
But the other thing that I found kind of, with all the presentations that there were, they are of the view that evidence of the claims were not presented. Are you of that mind that the Americans will not be influenced because all that was there was rhetoric, nothing with evidence?
That again is the PPP spin on it. I mean, if you go to a conference and you articulating what is happening in your country, you're providing evidence. Okay, that you are giving the evidence. If you say, well, look, from the time the PPP came to power, there have been a rise in extrajudicial killings, and you point out the persons who were killed and the events, it's evidence you're giving. But what the PPP is playing with. You see, we don't even have to give the Americans authorities evidence about what's going on. They have all the evidence that they collect from the embassies. But if you go to an imperial power, okay, even though they have evidence, they have some procedures that influence the institutions. And what they would say to you, okay, we listen to what you say, but if you want action on this, if you want the Black Caucus to fight to promote a delegation coming to look at the situation in Guyana, facts finding mission, we have procedures that has to be facilitated by the State Department. We can't do it on our own. But to facilitate that, you got to now give you some. We hear your positions and your argument, but you got to give you some records and make it formal. You have to make a formal request, and then you got to back it up with things. And I think that is where they're trying to play around. That after the oral presentation, generally, okay, a number of documents were presented to the various U.S. authorities. So there's not a question of lack of documents. Okay, the evidence was delivered orally, and then it was later, okay, delivered in written form. Because Apache went to the United Nations with a holistic thing. All that documents was given. Nigel Hughes did an extensive things, 2 different documents on various things. His wife, presented it verbally in 4 minutes, how much you could do. Therefore, you had to back it up with the documents. So that argument is nonsense. It's just their propaganda line.
Well, you see, because the general impression that they're giving is that, there was all talk. That there was no data, and they're saying that, if we want action, then we have to do disaggregation of data and present, that kind of. But like you said, Nigel, in terms of the roads and then contracts and all of these things, he presented evidence. Right? The Prodigy submitted evidence. So I don't know, I'm trying to understand what it is that they want. They did say that we should call for a fact-finding mission, but
We actually called for fact-finding mission. It was called, the conference called for fact-finding. Now the data thing is just the PPP. We are trying to spin things to undermine the effectiveness of the conference. Now you go to meet people in a meeting that is scheduled for probably an hour and a half at the available time. Each speaker is probably allotted 4 minutes to present. How much data you could present in the oral presentation? You would support, you provide the data after the speeches, okay? And that was done. So you know.
The question of patriotism and the conference, the Prime Minister's take on it, you know, how do we see that kind of position in terms of people fighting for justice, for all of the things that the theme of the conference talked about, equality and the rights of the citizens and all of that, and you're saying it's unpatriotic. Is something not right with the Prime Minister? I mean, what is wrong with him?
Well, look, man, the Prime Minister is a stooge with the PPP, and he has to echo whatever they spit down his throat, you know. But the PPP is the last set of people to talk about Guyanese being unpatriotic. I mean, their whole governance reflects unpatriotic behavior. When you seek to reduce your parliamentary opposition to nothingness, you seek to trample upon your constitution, you seek a form of governance that is totally outside the parameters, okay, of democratic behavior, you're being profoundly unpatriotic. You're not enhancing national cohesion, you're dividing the country. And in as far as trying to get political support from the Americans or external forces to suit your cause, they have a history that is uncontestable. At the last elections, they have spent millions of dollars to recruit, you know, U.S. These people who, you know, try to influence U.S. policy. There's, you know, these specialist groups, what they call them now, they're slipping me. But they spend millions of dollars to get the United States government and the Trump administration to get them into office. And that is the greatest level of being unpatriotic, the lobbyists, you know. So I don't take the PPP's argument about who being, you know, unpatriotic. They're the biggest examples of unpatriotic behavior in the country. And we should not be diverted by the opportunistic, you know, raising of these issues.
And we have a vice president who had even suggested giving up a piece of land to Venezuela. So what kind of patriotism
is talking about, you know?
All right. I mean, the understanding of patriotism is the entire thing, because if you listen to Vincent Adams on what is happening with Exxon and the way that the government has changed the entire environmental protection agency in terms of effective monitoring of Exxon, and the lax attitude to the environment, not only to Guyana, but to the entire Caribbean, Venezuela, and all Trinidad and all these places, in the event of, you know, a catastrophe occurring out there, the checks and balances that they have totally, they have reduced them or totally withdrawn them. How much concern are they showing for this country that they say they love? I mean, how much concern? Because if these things are going to affect Guyana, it involves not only the terrain, but it involves also the inhabitants, the animals, all right, flora, fauna, plants and animals, and human beings. So where is the limit to patriotism in terms of the scope and so on that this PPP is talking about?
No, but
Is it only within the political sphere, or
look,
is it something that is broader than
on the issues that you raised, the PPP government is on record and it's probably the first government in the history of Guyana who went to court, okay, to defend a foreign company against a ruling of a Guyanese court in the national interest. When the court ruled against Exxon that, the government joined with Exxon to try to seek and to force the court to reverse the decision. What could be more unpatriotic than that? So these chaps really doesn't really have a leg to stand on. They don't have a leg to stand on. And I'm telling you, tomorrow, if Venezuela cross this border, Jagdio and Ali ain't gonna fight no way. They will hide and run like cowards. And it's gonna be ordinary people who got to put down their lives, okay, in defense of the territory and so. So, I don't really take those chaps serious, and I try not to get too worked upon these matters because I feel offended when I hear people like Jagdio and Ali them talk about patriotism. I mean, they have had a chance to move Guyana forward in a way that would have been unprecedented. And they choose to use their power and their influence to drive Guyana in a place where we have today worse than ever in terms of a united country. Their whole political action has been profoundly unpatriotic. They haven't enhanced the unity of this country and strengthened Guyanese cohesion. They have been the most divisive political force in the country in the modern political history at the place.
Well, that's another point because these guys, Rafi and his partner, seem to believe that what we are saying, is not true in terms of the PPP's actions. They are saying exactly the opposite of what you were saying, that Guyana is in a better place than it was ever before.
Yes, because they're speaking from a point of Indian and PPP interest. This is true. The dominance of the Indian community as a community over the country has never been what it is. The PPP's personal, political, and partisan control at the place have never been what it is. So for them, it's extreme progress. So they're speaking from their own position of interest. They're not seeking to represent the African position, the Amerindian position, or people outside the PPP orbit position. When they say that Guyana is a better place, they're right. It's a better place for them. And that is why my attitude towards these things is pointless to argue these things with them because we can't meet a common ground. There's no honesty in the discourse.
Yeah, well, I had actually pulled from the program, but because the same points that you're making, that you make a point, you say, look, for instance, that if you check Hague and then Amstel, that Hague has a road that leads for miles all the way down to the back dam and so on. That Den Amstel has the main road leading just up to the farmlands, but from the farmlands it's shared. What Ravi is going to blatantly like to say that is not true. He's going to make a comparison between Den Amstel and Hague and say that the people of Hague are concerned that Den Amstel has more development than Hague itself because they have the regional, they have the community, they have the school. Now these are traditional African villages. The schools would have been there because of the churches and all these things and so on. But they don't factor that in. He just wants to say that
he's propagandizing.
Yeah,
he's not discussing
anything. Not true.
Yeah.
In terms of his analysis and comparison. Now I showed the disparity in terms of the PPPs dealing with roads. on the East Coast, dealing with all the Indian villages, dams. They've covered all the dams with asphalt and concrete, and basically all of the Indian villages, all of the way going up to Mike and so on, even Cove and John. And I've skipped all the African villages. Now they're telling me that I could take you to Berbice, to some village, and the people there can tell you, the kind, you want to know if these guys are living in some kind of
No,
cocoon,
they know what they're doing, not living no cocoon. You're dealing with people who come there to be dishonest, who come there to propagandize in the interest of the PPP. And then they will say, in extension, the Indian community. So they will say they defend the Indian interests. But I don't think they really defend the interests. They undermine the interests in a more fundamental way, because they're presenting Indian interests as being unfair, insensitive, and so. But they're there to do that. They're not there to achieve any common agreement with you, or with us on developmental issues and political and social challenges in the country. That's not what they're there for. They're there to propagandize.
And to defend.
And to defend.
Defend the people.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for,
In doing that, they're making out that, they're not PPP.
But they're saying, but the action speaks louder than the thing. I mean, I've lost a lot of respect for Rafi Dev, and I don't think, when Rafi Dev came on the scene, I was one of the few Africans who took him serious, and I know in AGDA and even in WPA, I fought for him to be taken serious, because, his whole style of politics and intervention is new, different, but, as a party and people who fight with ideas, and so you don't want to be dismissive. And, at the time I sensed a degree of honesty in his articulations. So, and me and him have had numbers of exchanges in the press over the years. And when he listened to my Boston speech, and he said to Indians that I call upon the African security to turn the guns upon Indian people. I done with him. That is bottom line. That level of nastiness is not politics to me. It's not politics to me. And I've lost all respect for him. I give all kind of scope. I don't expect Rafi, to support me politics, but I don't expect on serious matters like that, you're going to say, which is not true, that I say the African military must turn their guns from the Indian people. In a different situation, I will carry to court for libel. But I really come from the school. Because he can't present, what I said is there even on the web. The programs and the speech is still there. And anybody could go through it and write and script it. You'll never find that remark. So he can't go in a court and prove it. But that's a level of their politics. That is the nastiness of them. That's how you know when they're nasty. Don't worry all them fancy things. When crunch time come, that's how you know the political nastiness. And despite all the problems that make out the PP, or the PNC, or we in the WP have had the people, there's a level we don't go. There's a level we don't carry our politics and carry the country. And especially when you deal with racial matters, which are very sensitive and charged matters. You have to be frank, but you have to be responsible and honest. And you can't play the game with the playing. They're playing a dangerous game.
They don't care. Yeah, you just have to we have to live with them. You don't have to accept what they're doing, but as you would often do when they come with these things, you challenge them as a matter of record in the print media and also here in this program, so that people can understand them for what they are and be able to see the deception in what they're doing. And I want to congratulate you for continuously taking on Ravi whenever he comes up with these outlandish ideas. But that's another matter. What's the issue with President Ramatar and the oil contract statement?
And Ramatar and Jagdeo.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, what I found interesting, and let me say, I think is important political development. Ramatar was on record as saying in an interview or something he wrote that he's in favor of renegotiating the oil contracts. Okay, because in his judgment, Guyanese get we can get the best deal, and he's open to that.
But you said the same thing.
Jack is a special case. He said all kinds of things different times. Anyway,
He's
but
talked about ring fencing and everything. I mean, only the other day, what's his name, replayed
his speeches.
His speech. So, anyway, go ahead.
Jack is masked a change in the positions.
Yeah.
But Ali jumped on Ramatar and abused him, in a very, very uncomradely way. And I find it interesting, why I find it interesting, it means that there is probably a growing rift within the PPP's circle on the party between the old Jagonites and the new Jagdeo forces. Because if you read the response of Ali to the former president, it was uncomradely, it was vulgar, it was on, it shows disrespectful. It shows no statesman. You know the ex-president. He's a party member.
A senior.
You are ex-president. Okay, we got legitimate political differences, but you have to conduct the differences in the public space in a way that enhance, public communication and the political culture. But that was not what he did. And I don't think it is just a mistake. I think it's a reflection of the growing tensions in the PPP, and that the unity, is beginning to crack. I mean, I can't say I have inside information that I could pledge on, but I find it almost impossible that the tensions between the old PPP elements who have grown up with under the Chedi doctrine of working class party, quote unquote socialism, could be comfortable with what is happening. And while Jagdeo them have forced them into almost a position of nothingness in the party in terms of influence, it will be politically strange if they're not regrouping and if they're not, considering, how to deal with the situation. And I think that is a manifestation of a bigger conflict within the party. I don't think it's not simply a disagreement simply with the oil contract. I think when you look at the tone of Ali's engagement, it signifies a wider political rift.
Yeah, but I mean, the nature of things right now, because the representatives of the Dominican Republic came here. They signed an agreement with Ali, and then Jagdeo overturned that agreement. I mean, the president,
Which was the president? The real president overturned the arrangements. The puppet president signed it.
But you see what I'm saying? So there is so much discord,
Yeah.
You want to know what's wrong with these guys. I mean, what's happening with them in terms of how things are going. Look at then we have this fiasco where they're blaming this poor guy, for this reduction of 214 million to 3 million and so on. He's the fall guy Can a lowly guy like him
can't make a
take it upon himself?
Man, that's nonsense.
To engage Exxon, and the world knows that any engagement to that effect it'll have to be sanctioned by Jalvio himself. So how is it that, you're putting this man to take the fall with the hope that Guyanese are stupid?
They ain't fooling nobody. They ain't fooling nobody. And that's a level of the unpatriotic behavior. If you want to understand unpatriotic behavior, that is a good example of it.
Yeah, but it's also a good example of the contempt and disrespect, not only for African Guyanese, but for the entire country.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, I've seen some comments from East Indians, because it seems to me that some of them are becoming totally outraged at these atrocities that are taking place. But I don't know, I mean, the Indians generally, they discuss things, and it's not that they don't understand what is happening, but they prefer to be quiet and secluded in their discussions and not public. But a few of them have begun to come out in the public and have begun to condemn what has been happening. And then there is this fiasco where they gave $800 million contract
To the critic.
to
To
the
the
critic.
so-called critic.
And they're justifying it, saying that of 22, only 13 were viable tenders, and within those 13 you had, he came up, as one of the better tenders and so on. But, tendering is not just a matter of what you put in as, you have, the capacity and...
Right, you have to have first thing, like history.
And all
He got any
these
history of building
So,
anything?
I don't know what justification they're giving to that.
Well, they will give some justification, but who they will be convincing? I mean, I listened to Guyanese's response on a matter when it broke. And across the board and across race, people are condemning it and finding it offensive. What is his history in building anything to qualify he to be a contractor to get 800 plus million Guyana dollars contract? And he's fronting for somebody in the PPP. He is whatever form he put together. He's just a front man. He is not known, as far as I know, to be of anybody with any financial great standing, and to get these contracts and so. You have to have some financial history. You have to show you got some capacity, to raise money. You have to show that you have experience. You have to show that you have equipments and so forth and so forth. And if he never built nothing, how could he pass the test? And it's good that MP Pattinson from the AFC raised the matter and now is forcing the Public Procurement Commission to investigate. Because I'm waiting to see what the investigation would show.
No, but what are they investigating? Because the tender board, they have said that, that everything was above board.
Well, investigation should show, if it's objective investigation, should show or confirm whether they're right or not. But I can't see everything above board. I'm not an expert in the area, but I mean, the work I did in Saro exposed me to some of those things, and I don't want to speak on any exports, but I've had to study contracts. I had to deal with procurement issues, and so I do have a sense of what is required. And I am telling you, he has no standing. And you have to start having standing. You have to demonstrate that you have equipment. I don't know a man. I don't know.
The tragedy of a man being killed, and the news on the site of the incident, he would have been saying one thing, that the guy, was a good man. Even there he contradicted himself. In terms, the guy is just a young man, but he got 20-something years experience. And then there is another take on, I don't know if it was Facebook or something, where he's condemning the guy that he had knocked off the guy, and told him not to come back and this and that.
But anybody who listen to critic over time know what kind of person you're dealing with. So I don't know how such a guy could all of a sudden become such a profound investor, And I'm saying he's just fronting for somebody.
Let's hope, But that guy that lost his life, I'm hopeful, that something comes out of it, because from the statements that you see coming out, obviously there is intention to not.
They want to compensate the family. They're going to blame him for his own demise.
Right.
So that's not surprising. But these just come. What you're seeing here is class formation. They're using the oil money. They have to build, and strengthen a political ruling class that in a way that it wasn't existing. So they're moving people who are in naked poverty. You're close to them. We make you into multi-millionaires. You're working with me. You do what we like. No, but it was never. The process of capital accumulation or class accumulation is a natural process in society, but the rate to which it's being done now with the oil money is unprecedented. It's unprecedented.
But they did it before. They bought trucks.
Yeah. From a time, if you start from the demise of Dr. Jagan, you start from the rise of Barra Jagdeo, his model was to move state resources into Indian private hands, people who are around him, and a lot of young Indians, and he really built a new young Indian business class, the original Indian business class, who you could say, quote unquote, raise the money out of struggle and hard work, whatever you want, however you want to describe it. Was sidestepped. And Jagdeo used the state to create a new generation of young Indians and turn them into multi-millionaires, forcibly by shifting state assets in the direction, encouraging them with all kinds of violations, from drugs to gold smuggling to human trafficking. And in so doing, he built a new Indian class, or a section. He strengthened a section of the Indian ruling class, that has been unprecedented. So they have a history of doing that. But I'm telling you, with the oil money, it now is becoming, it's fast and unprecedented, because it deals with plenty money. And if you only got 2 wells, and them chaps junking hundreds of millions of dollars away to their friends to do things, when you got 5 wells running, what do you think you're going to see? So we are in interesting times, and as I said here, and I keep lamenting, the masses of people in the opposition has to establish some red lines and act before it becomes too late. Because if you allow this consolidation to consolidate, this process to consolidate, you may beat it back eventually, but you can beat it back at a higher price. It's better you beat it back now, where you pay a lower price, than you wait until it gets entrenched. Because when it gets entrenched, I'm telling you, the history of oil and petrol states have demonstrated that people slaughter to protect that kind of money. And we're going to move from crude political oppression to open state violence against opposition people and the masses. If we allow them to consolidate, they're going to reach that point. All them oil states got a history where the rulers get so powerful and they protect themselves, both military security, because they got the money and so on, they corrupt the place, and they dish out to the opposition open physical violence. And they reduce politics to nothingness. And this is the direction we will eventually find ourselves if we don't act quickly. And that is my concern, that's my concern. I mean, I've run long enough to know that the rate to which we're degenerating as a society, and we're losing a lot of our fundamental so-called democratic values, and the political culture is getting so opportunistic and so corrupted that sooner or later, we're going to be in a hell of a situation, and I don't understand why our political leadership doesn't understand that they have to act, and they have to act very quickly and soon,
Yeah, let's hope that they do, because, like you said, if you check the history of Michelle and all these guys that were in control, like you said, they slaughtered
the Middle East,
Egypt
the Middle East, the Middle East there.
Middle East. All these guys.
The Malco states have rulers are vicious.
Yeah, it was mad. And people eventually had to take a stand. I mean, in Nigeria and all these places, you don't hear about the battles that are taking place, but it's precisely because of these things.
Of these things.
Yeah. That people believe that, the resources are not being distributed in the way that it should, so that the country as a whole can benefit. And look at the situation with Niger and the Congo and so on right now. You have African leaders who are, wanting to basically go against what appears to be a progressive movement away from the colonial domination and so on. I mean, they were buying for 80 cents a ton of uranium from Niger, when on the world market it was 200 and something euros, So it means if they're buying it at 80, what were they paying the people who were extracting it?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, exploitation as a factor in this kind of relationship, and a lot of the exploitation results from the fact that the people at the top allow it because they, like we're happening here, receive...
Yeah, they're beneficiaries. They
Yeah.
get the crumbs and so on, and they don't care.
Payday
For them, it's big payday.
It is, and it's a sad thing. Now the vice president continues to make the news for his mouth. He's always saying things about people. He even made a lot of statements recently when you were accused, and he accused our own David Hines of working at Sarah and all these things. When in fact
these are things of his imagination, the frictions of his imagination, But the man don't really care, The thing about Jagdi, I don't know. Sometimes, you have to take him serious because he will power. But sometimes you can't help being comical in terms of listening to his behavior.
Right.
But when a man has power, you got to take it really serious. Even though he's comical, but he's a comic that could hurt people. So you got to take it serious. And the words.
But now he's running from another suit. He's 20 million.
I say thing
was a war.
No, it wasn't. The case in trial at Gulsuram.
No, the case that he appealed.
Oh, the case you appeal. When you want to pay money, you come and spoil child. You libel people. Where people, carry to the court, you can't prove your case.
Because you can't do it CCJ now with that one. So now.
The one way you see recently is Gulsuram. Gulsuram was a former Auditor General.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into the details of the libel, but Gulsuram carried to court the next, how they file these things, nothing less than $30 million dollars. Okay. And Gulsuram say he and the marshal, the courts, have been trying to solve the papers for Jagdi. They go to your house, They go to your residence, they go to your office, they go to Freedom House, they go everywhere. They can't find the man. The man hiding. I mean, it's comical, but I mean, to be serious, man, to be serious now. I mean, the court is an important institution in the rule of law in the country. And while I could understand ordinary citizens be trying to dodge the marshals and all kind of thing, one would expect that the president, vice president, once he hear the marshals want to serve a thing on him, he will make contact with the lawyer, his lawyer, and say, look, make contact with these people and see what they want and let me see what thing. You have to show respect for the national institutions. You know, you as a big vice president, is a major public official. You're always talking about the rule of law and democracy. And now the papers have to find a dodge and they're running and hiding. I mean, what example are you showing? You know, and these things may sound small to some people, but they're important because it shows the mindset. They doesn't see themselves as equal before the law. He considered bigger than the law. You and your damn papers, the hell was it?
Yeah, but what if an ordinary man does it?
They want to drag you in the jail. You know, but that's it. They have no respect for these institutions. And the decent things he must know. If you try to solve the thing, but still tell your lawyers, you're okay, contact their lawyer and so on, Mr. Gulsiram and so whatever, and let me hear what this thing is about. You know, I mean, that is a decent and proper thing to do when you're a public person acting at that level. But they have no real respect. And again, it's a level of the unpatriotic behavior. They will destroy national institutions without thinking. They're going to try and destroy the trade unions, the teachers' unions and so. That is profound unpatriotic behavior. So when they talk about patriotic behavior and democracy and respect for national institutions, you know, I'm so contemptuous of them. I don't even want to engage it because it is so disgusting, you know. It's so disgusting.
Well, we just got to watch and see. I mean, the first case against the former Minister of Housing, junior minister, where she was awarded 20 million, we accused her of becoming rich when she became government and all these things. He took it to the appeal court, it gave the award. Now he's taking it to the CCJ. But it's a pattern with them, you understand, because they are demonstrating that the institutions that are here,
they're bigger than institutions, you know. That is not for me.
You know, so even with cases of the government, that when the decisions are not in their favor, that these courts, they're not going to accept it. If it's a decision in their favor, it's okay. Right? They're going to talk a whole lot about it.
And praise the court.
Praise the court and all of it. When it's not in their favor, it's a matter that, you know, something is wrong with they lambaste the judges and they talk about the fact that, you know, these institutions are not, you know, feeling well. They don't go to but you get the sense that they're saying that they can't trust the institutions, that they're unfair and all of these things.
See, their sense of fair play is domination. These things will be subordinate to our will, and if they're not, then there's a problem. That's their position. They're not starting from no acceptance of the rule of law and democracy. They're starting from we're the rulers, man.
Yeah, but we're calling on Jack Dio to be a man. If you want to just go, you know, publicly saying all kinds of things about people, you're doing it all the time, right? When you're faced with people's, you know, response, then you have to stand up. If you know you want to say things that you don't have evidence for, you know, to slander people and libel them and so on, why is it that you got to be running and hiding? And it's not that we don't know what his worth is, but if you are to follow the Sougerong,
Jack the award. That is
his pension.
that is a issue
Yeah.
itself.
You understand?
I don't think you have to start a Kong Jack the body.
Well, you see.
So, them
So-
chaps have accumulated tremendous money in this place, man.
So, he's running from paying the $20 million. Right?
And you want to get Gosram you want to get Gosram a chance in court.
Well, that's the thing.
You are the one. You know, but it's power, you know.
Yeah, but it
Power.
shows his mentality that even though he has all this mouth and he pretends to be this big bully, when he's confronted with a challenge, that he's a little whimpering poodle. You know? And I've always said that he only talks a lot.
Yeah.
That he's a big bark with no bite. His power lies behind the forces of the state. But as a man himself,
Yeah.
he is nothing. You see? And the day he's confronted with a real challenge, he's gonna run out of this country. I'm telling you that. You know, all of them. Because we saw it before. When they were faced with the situation of 2002-2003. But now we can boast that they had to use all kinds of strategies, and Dr. Luncheon has gone to his grave with a lot of secrets and so on. But that's the kind of guys we have to deal with. Now, we talked about the $860 million contract. We should talk about, before we get off air, that there is a planned protest by some Guyanese who are interested in what is happening in Haiti. I don't know if you want to highlight that.
Yes, I want to highlight it. I know the mobilization is being done, and I think we want to use the program to alert people, and they should listen out for the activity. And we also want to join in the wider solidarity on the Haitian question. Now, the history of Haiti in terms of external intervention, and more particularly the role played by the UN in Haiti, the UN have been playing a role in Haiti for many years. It is the considered judgment of the Haitian patriots that the UN presence as sponsored by the United States over the years and supported by the Caribbean and even the OAS, the regional bodies who are under US influence, have worsened the situation in Haiti and has not led to any correction of the things that they say they came to correct. And in fact, the Haitian patriots are arguing that the UN intervention and the UN forces that are mobilized on the ground is really being used by the US, France, and other Western powers to strengthen their allies in Haiti, you know, and the ruling class in Haiti that has a history of collaboration with the West, US and so forth, and a vicious history of exploitation of the people. And that is what the UN mission tends to protect, and not the people of Haiti, you know, who they claim, you know, they're there to protect. And at present, there's a new initiative by the United States to send a mission back into Haiti. And I read recently the Guyana government has committed to send Guyanese police. I mean, Guyana, as far as I can remember, did play a role before in Haiti. And I think now Guyanese who are in solidarity with the people of Haiti and the progressive forces in Haiti are planning, you know, public activities to express their support for the progressive elements in Haiti and to speak out against the United Nations current intervention and the role Guyana government has committed to play. We want to use the program to join in solidarity with them. We believe that there could be no real solution to the Haitian crisis except there's a genuine internal solution among the Haitian people themselves. And with their long history of foreign intervention, I think it is time that the world, including the United Nations, CARICOM, OAS, everybody who is pledging and is saying that they have an interest in the humanitarian situation in Haiti and they have an interest in the future of the country, they should use their influences to give an internal solution a chance. We have had over the umpteen years externally driven solutions. It is time to give genuinely internal solutions a chance. And I support all solidarity groups with Haiti who is pressing for genuinely internal reconciliation among the Haitian people.
But I mean, after Papa Doc, Baby Doc, we saw a progressive development in Jaguar Tribe Aristide. And what happened with Aristide is clear indication that there is no intention of taking Haiti out of the morass that it has been in for centuries, because Aristide was seen as a very progressive element. He was taking the country down a path of reconciliation and development and all of that. And they moved him.
Yeah.
They moved him.
Twice.
You see? So what are they saying now? I mean, and then this last assassination, that obviously the hands of the imperialists were involved. So what kind of peace are they going to make when they are the authors of the destabilization?
Yeah.
So what is it that they want from Haiti, really?
Well, I mean, the exploitation of Haitian resources. I mean, they really plundered Haiti over the years. And they want to continue. Because Haiti is a rich country in terms of resources. Haiti has a lot of strategic resources. And in terms of the Caribbean, in terms of the market, Haiti has a couple million people, so it's a big market. So it's their economic interest and their geopolitical interest. And people, black conscious activists, also invoke the role Haiti have played in defeating, France and so, that there's still that hatred and bitterness at play, and thing. But the bottom line is they don't want Haiti, because look, even if you get a progressive government, Haiti will still remain in the orbit of the United States because it's part of the hemisphere. So no government could take it out of the area. It will take years with the best progressive government in Haiti. It will take years before Haiti could get itself untangled by the economic arrangement and entrapment that it's had over the years. So it is not like if you free up Haiti, Haiti somehow going to walk away from the Western economic influence and political shape. But for some reason, they don't want to give Haiti a breathing space. What Haiti is crying out for is survival, man. We're human beings. Give you a chance to survive as human beings. And I can't understand why these so-called Western civilized nations that they try to project themselves can't understand that is basically what the Haitian people are asking for, and they're entitled to it. Give the people a breathing space. Haiti can't become a Cuba. you know.
It's just one island divided by.
Yeah, but it's level of its poverty and
Yeah,
its challenges
disparity
and thing.
between.
It can't overnight become that. So there's no fear. There's no fear. Should be no fear of that. But just the idea of Haitians beginning to take control of their destiny seems to be something they can't live with.
I noticed that there's a petition online, all right, against the UN because the call for this action came from Africa, from Ghana. And of course, the argument is that
The
it's
US
a
walking
West-
through US walking through Africa as usual in these things.
They always do that. You know, the Grenadian Revolution
You know.
was defeated
You know.
through the
Participation
participation of
the CARICOM, you know,
Yeah, CARICOM and all this.
Eugenia Charles and them call
right,
it.
and then we experienced the same thing, the OAS and the Miamotlis and all that.
There's the formula, there's the formula.
2020, right?
You know.
So the question of the role of people who should be seeing Haiti in a different light and working towards a better solution, you know, it becomes a matter of understanding their thinking and whether they're truly progressive or not. So this petition is basically asking for, like the protests that will be staged, to have the UN, you know, not take that step of sending military forces into Haiti, that there should be other approaches to dealing with the situation in Haiti. And if you do come across it, then, you know, just sign it, because there's a lot of background to the calls for the signing of the petition. And you read all of that, and you will see the arguments that are being made, tracing the history of the Haitian Revolution and all of the interventions over the years, so that people can have a good sense of what this new intervention is about and why, you know, it's not the best thing for the people of Haiti, right? And then the bastardization of the Haitian people by the likes of, you know, our own government, you know, while the Venezuelans are
Welcome. Seems to be welcome.
And well, they're over welcome, you know what I mean? Because they're pouring.
And you have a border dispute with them.
Yeah.
You know.
Up to now, they haven't answered
But
the
you,
question
but you have a problem with the Haitians.
about all those
Because the
votes.
Haitians are Africans.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's a matter of race.
It was a race, you see.
Matter of race,
You know.
And with the new laws that they've passed about, because people have come to me. One man came to me and said, "Man, my wife is Venezuelan. She been here long. Do up a paper for she let she get birth certificate." So these things are possible now.
Yeah.
You understand? I ignored him. You understand? He probably went somewhere else and got it done. So the factor of a vote is critical, because they see the Venezuelans who are coming as people who are going to be
More likely to vote
for them rather than to vote for.
So they will. So and again, the lack of patriotism is being reflected in the policy. Everywhere it twists how you turn it, and these are people who raising the question of who being patriotic or who being unpatriotic. Nonsense.
I mean, as a former military officer, and the question of security, national security, as a former brigadier and all of that, Mark Phillips, and all those boats that they saw landing on the Essequibo there, has he come out with a statement in relation to that as a prime minister and a former general of the army? Have you heard him?
No, I haven't heard him. I haven't heard him on the Venezuelan question. I haven't heard him.
Because people are,
I don't know if he have said anything, but I can't remember hearing him.
yeah, because a lot of concerns now are even being expressed about, the fact that we have, I don't have a problem with people running from oppression and seeking alternative lives that will make things better for themselves, because it happens all over the world. We are experiencing it here. They're going to Trinidad and so on. We went to Barbados, we went to Trinidad and so on. But
when you got a conflict with a neighbor who claiming to three-quarter your country, and they has a massive population advantage over you, they have millions of people to you. I think you can't play with immigration policy in relationship to them that way.
Yeah.
While you welcome immigrants and you want to adhere to United Nations and all the international conventions that you sign on to, you have to be realistic, and you have to know there has to be limitations, because it becomes counterproductive. And every country in the world will understand that you can't be a country less than 700 million people, about 750 million, 100,000 people, and your neighbor got millions of people, and they're claiming three-quarter your country, and they seems to be sending people to settle in the border, the areas of conflict, and you, with whatever development, and don't understand it is threatening the sovereignty of the country. Come on, man.
All right, Brother Ogun, it's time has come for us to say goodnight to our listeners. It's been a pleasure being with you again. I want to thank you for being with us, Brother Ogun. And I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. We're going to try our best to be back here next week, same time, same channel, for another program, so that we can continue to talk about matters as they relate to Guyana and the world at large. Do have a good night.